Hello, everybody. Welcome to our third meetup with experts, where we trying to clarify what is going on various industries, and try to ask anything we desire to ask, but didn't have a chance. So now we do. Today's experts, it's Vasily Karpov, head of that's a weird title. QA cluster head at MTS Digital Company. He will be responsible today for the performance domain. Vasily is our former colleague who left, unfortunately for me, left company recently. And Konstantin Nadonenko, our lead test automation engineer in EPAM. He will be responsible in charge of mobile test automation domain on today's meeting. So before we start with my questions, two announcements. First, so if you watch us from YouTube, please hit subscribe button and hit like or dislike, depending on what you think we are good or not. So this is very important for us. This motivates us keep doing what we are doing. Guys who are currently online on the meeting, so if you have any questions, please type or come up with some new question during the meeting. So please type them down to the chat, and after my let's say warming up questions to our experts, I'll let you ask your questions or ask them for you from chat. Okay, so let's start then. The first question regarding it's about tooling. So correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm not an expert. You are. By the way, guys, do you have your coffee today with you? Because I do have. So I wish. Okay, so
I have a tea in the bottle.
Okay, that's also acceptable. So tooling. So correct me if I'm wrong, but my internal feeling that nothing is changing in the tooling in mobile as well as in performance domain. So we have in every domain we have top three tools. For instance, in performance, we have GMeter. If we talking about open source tools, we have Gatlink or LoadRunner if we prefer payment tools, and the same for mobile domain. So we have Appium as a common tool for both platforms, and native tools like Nespresso and UIXCode. So and this stays. They have their own market shares, and nothing is changing for ages. So two questions: why so? And if maybe we have some alternatives that have maybe at least potential to get the leadership on that. The similar situation that happens in UI test automation, right? We have Playwright or Cypress who are trying to push Selenium from its first place. So if my question is clear, Vasily, let's start from you. On my screen, you are on the top, and Konstantin.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of tooling, as far as I can see the latest trends, we don't see any major players coming up into the market, since everything is pretty stable in terms of the tool set costs. Basically, you want a tool to simulate the traffic when you do your performance, whatever type of testing or whatsoever. And basically, the current market already provides all the capabilities within the tooling, like you have your JMeter, which is easy to learn, and from the beginning, of course. And then it comes a bit harder and harder since you're learning more complex things. And in terms of like smart beer stuff, which is also pushing the market with their landscape complex stuff, like to have in one bucket test automation and performance testing. But as of now, if it works, then it works. And if we will look at the latest trends, like with the AI and everything, like the code generation, basically 90% of the performance testing is still not coding. It's the preparations for the architectural stuff, for the test data, for the landscape, and for the methodology. So as for the trends, we're pretty stable, but the newer tools, they provide more flexibility in terms of the coding itself, like for the Locust or for the K6, which are like the newest things. You're capable of writing your own code and building really fluent stuff into the delivery pipelines, but the general ideas, they remain the same, and we're just following the best practices and applying them. That's
Okay.
pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Konstantin, what about mobile domain?
Well, the picture is not so bad as you say. Well, for example, if you remember, 7 or 8 years ago, there were like lots of tools for mobile automation, Robotium, Cylindroid. Cylindroid is dead already. Robotium is still alive, but there are not too much projects which are using that framework. But there are lots of frameworks which are built above the framework for testing for a tool. For example, there is a Kaspresso, which is built over an espresso, and there is if I remember correctly, the name of the framework, it's called Earl Grey, and it's not a tea.
It's a vodka, Earl Grey. Earl Goose. Sorry. Okay.
Grey Goose.
Grey Goose. Ignore me. Yeah.
Earl Grey is for iOS testing, and it's built over XCTest. It's not built over XCTest. It could be used with XCTest, and there are lots of such projects, but they are not popular. Also, there is a framework which is built above Appium or not. I'm not sure, but it's called Catalan. Maybe someone know it, because Catalan was used mostly for desktop and web and API testing. But right now they provide tools for testing the mobile. And as far as I remember, it's not free to use, but it's very easy to use. And the market, there are two alternatives in the market, but everything is built on the three elephants: Appium, Espresso, and XCTest.
So, if you been asked for the advice, what tool to choose for the new project, what would you ask? Reply. I'm sorry.
I'd asked first. Firstly, I'd asked what kind of project it would be, and then I'd say which one tool I would use. For example, if it's a hybrid application or a web mobile application, it's definitely work for Appium. And if it's a native application, maybe I would try to convince to use the Espresso and XCTest.
Okay, Vasily, back to you. So, what if you've been asked which tooling is used for the new performance testing project? What would you reply on that?
In terms of mobile testing,
no. In terms of performance testing, of course. No, not mobile.
It's always a fit for purpose, because the tool is like being selected first, depending on your budget, then looking at your landscape and on your requirements, of course. Some tools, they provide really fluent support in terms of load distribution. And I'd say that some tools are really hard to get into. So if you're running like simple budgets and you want to have the implementation even outsourced, then JMeter is the way to go. If your transaction per second rate is quite low, and in case if you wish to have like an enterprise-based solution, which would be like integrated and onto your servers running the load, if you want to have your load agents really easily deployed, no hard scripting, if you want to have the DevSecOps costs reduced, then you could look at the subscription-based solutions. By the way, the Load Runner, the famous tool, has it. So you can now select a number of virtual users to run your tests on. So basically, just to summarize, it's always fit for purpose, and like the main reasons are budget and the types of protocol you're working with, because JMeter has a number of protocols built in with its plugins, and Load Runner has some too, but it really depends.
Okay, thank you. So back to Konstantin. Let's talk about mobile farms. So not so long, few years ago, right? Every big company has become to develop their own mobile farm. So this market seems pretty attractive for the people, and even EPAM developed its own mobile farm. So there was lots of vendors providing that kind of service, starting from EPAM, ending with Google, or vice versa, if you want. So there was a huge fragmentation, and can we say that at the moment we have that vendor right now it's a market leader? So, and if we talking about mobile cloud, talking about mobile device farm, this vendor name appears in your mind. Do we have something like that?
I have a question actually to you, Alexey. Is EPAM Mobile Cloud still alive?
Yes, it is. Moreover, they provide regularly, on regular basis. We meet together, and they provide some data indicating that a number of clients that use our farm is rising. Trend is to grow. I mean, the velocity of that growth maybe is not satisfying, but I don't know the data for the other vendors. So, please continue.
Yeah, I just used the EPAM Mobile Farm like 2 years ago last time, so that's why I asked it. About the leaders on the mobile cloud farms, I think there are two leaders which are unquestionable, and those are AWS, and the second one is Sauce Labs. I don't think I can say that who's the better or who's in the leading position between them, because I have no numbers. But if you go on the market and ask people, most people would say that yes, we're using Sauce Lab or AWS. Some would say like we're using the browser stack, but yeah, nothing is changing. But those services are growing because I think most people would use would prefer to use the Sauce Labs because it has lots of devices. They're updating their devices. It's easy to use. Well, if someone tried to use the device farm, it's awful. I mean AWS device farm, but Sauce Lab and Browser Stack, they're very easy to use. Support is very fast to come to help, but the AWS is still one of the market's leader. Also, there are like a lot of free farms. Samsung has their own farm, which is provided to the developers which are using the Samsung. They are updating it always with the newest versions of Android, newest devices, and etc. But it's only for Samsung. Also, there is a Firebase and lots of small companies which are providing that services.
So do I understand?
The leader is Sauce Lab and AWS from my point of view.
So the Sauce Lab is your favorite one. Am I right?
Yeah, if I have to pay money for device cloud, I would bring my money to them.
Okay, super. Talking about farms or maybe clouds, back to Vasily. So can we conclude eventually that on-prem environment is our past? So if we are talking about modern development, we have to talk, and modern performance testing, we have to talk only on cloud environments, and no way back to them. Is
Absolutely
that correct?
not. Absolutely not.
Oh.
Absolutely not. It still depends on the type of system that we're talking about, first of all, and then the requirements for the landscape that's running on. Because I mean, if you have a system which requires really low latency in terms of the access, like clouds have their own problems of like the regions that the servers are available in, first of all. Second thing is that the service availability, it really depends on your region that you're running your system on, and in case if you want to have like a top performance, you would go for an on-prem. And the third thing, and the most important one, is the level of control that you have on your servers. And basically, sometimes the service is unpredictable. Even they have their own SLAs, and like the tooling for the Azure, for the AWS, for the Google Cloud is really nice, but it's only a layer on top of a layer on top of a layer on top of some kind of a hardware. And talking about the most important part of the hardware that is inaccessible in terms of the cloud is the disk performance. Still, we're experiencing really nice artifacts while trying to have the cloud-based application tested against their performance, because basically they're not delivering the persistence and the performance that we're aiming at. So no, we're some even to continue with some high load systems. The mission critical ones are still hardware based because of the observability level that you want to have on top of them. Not talking about the software observability, but the hardware observability itself, because really serious players want to have their own hardware in terms of like controlling everything, even the environment.
Okay.
So what are you going to do in case of something is like failing over in terms of the cloud and you don't have any kind of access, but the system is your money maker? And they're saying, oh, our SLA is 99.9, and here's the 10th of the percent that we are not going up to now.
Okay. Okay. Konstantin, what about mobile test automation? So if we are starting a reasonably small project with a reasonable low number of target devices we have to test to, what would you prefer? To get a cloud environment for mobile test automation, or just to spend few thousands of dollars to just simply to buy your own devices?
You know, I tried to build my own device farm on one project, and it was like it wasn't a good idea actually because it's really expensive. Still, you have to buy some computer. You won't able to build it on some virtual machine. You have to buy some computer. You have to buy USB hubs and etc. and lots of stuff which is really complicated. But if the project is not so big, maybe we can just use the emulators. I don't think I still think that emulators and simulators is enough to test everything on the device, and you don't have to use the like a zoo of devices for Android and iOS. And for most of the time, for most of the tasks, I think it's okay to use the emulator and simulators for automation testing.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's switch to the hot topic. So I believe majority of people just are here to just ask you about ChatGPT. Okay, so ChatGPT is it's some kind of AI solution that has been released recently, and we still lots of we still don't understand how deep the bunny hole, right? How many capabilities it has and what can it potentially do. But having all information you have at the moment, can you just tell us how that could potentially change the current performance domain or mobile domain? Let's start from Vasily.
Well, I've already partially touched that. So basically, just to restate, still around 90% of the overall performance testing or application performance checking stays within some manual activities, which are spread around different project areas, like the landscape of the system or application that you're running on, the load generation landscape, the task data, and your load model and your performance testing approach in general. So where can we have the ChatGPT help? Is for the code solutions like the K06 or Locus stuff. So it really may help you to write some basic code. But here's the thing. Actually, we still remain with the same paradigm that either you write the code on your own or you check someone's code, which could be written by some AI, but it really will be, I believe, quite hard to teach to begin with and to continue with. The level of expertise for the code checking would be higher even than if you would be creating your own code. So if just to summarize, maybe we could have something partially automated, but the amount of the resources as it would be needed to spend for the code creation would be significantly higher than to get an engineer to get the code created as of now.
Okay. Konstantin, what about mobile automation?
I think it's absolutely useless right now for mobile automation. And you have to hire another one person who knows how to build a request to the to the ChatGPT. Just remember how it's hard to draw a picture, to ask a Midjourney to draw a picture. And when I'm thinking about the ChatGPT, the most thing, I'm thinking that the one thing that it can do, it's generate page objects, for example, in the framework, and some getters and setters, but you can do that with other generators, like using the, for example, YAML and generating it with the OpenAPI tool or other tools, and it could just generate you a code, and that's all. Yeah, and well, for test cases generating, yes, it's very cool. I already saw, but how does it work with websites? You just send it the website, then it generates the page objects, but I can't imagine that you can upload somewhere APK or APP file for Android and iOS, and then it has to launch it somewhere. But I can't imagine how ChatGPT can do it right now. But yeah, it's learning too fast, I think. In some time.
Okay. So let me summarize. So you believe that at the current state, maybe at current state of our knowledge about ChatGPT, or current state of ChatGPT itself as a tool with some available capabilities, it is useless. I'm sorry.
Yes, at the current state, yes.
Yeah, but in what direction you think it should evolve to become useless, or to become useful?
Useful. I think first of all you have to teach it to launch the applications. First of all.
Well, actually, they promise, as far as I remember, they already presented the new feature. They call it plugins or something like that allow ChatGPT to use external resources. For instance,
yeah, but how can you imagine that the customer of EPAM would just say, hey, okay, just send all the APKs and IPA or APP files to some other vendor? As far as I remember, ChatGPT is Microsoft. Or
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely reasonable question. Actually, I'm not trying to protect ChatGPT and defend it, but they promised to introduce private mode or incognito mode, or that kind of stuff. So I suppose
if there would be some standalone, for example, ChatGPT, I can just download it, set it somewhere on the virtual machine, and it would just work there and would work absolutely isolated. Then yes, I'd say we're doomed.
Well, actually, let's look on that from different sides. So right now, big companies using cloud provided services and keep their secrets in there, right? So they see nothing wrong on sending their private data. So for clouds, the cloud vendors, they found a reasonable solution for providing necessary level of security. I suppose that the same happened eventually with ChatGPT or similar products. But okay, let's move forward. We have lots of questions. So let's continue about talking about mobile automation. So automation of mobile devices or applications over mobile devices. This is a pretty simple task, clear and understandable. But on the market recently appears new devices that they are, let's say, they are a little bit far from standard cell phones, but they could potentially take a significant market share. I'm talking about Apple Vision Pro, first of all, and all those AR, VR, or other ARS devices. So what about that domain? So do you have already experience with automation with their devices? And even if you don't have, do you know maybe about the frameworks and the tooling that is using for that? Can you just bring us something on that topic?
About tooling, I'd say no. I have no idea how do they test the VRs or ARs. I have no idea how they test the video games for virtual reality, but yeah, actually I have an idea. If you like use the Unity or Unreal Engine, it has tools for testing the video games, but for other applications right now, there is no idea how do they test.
Mhm.
But for example, if we're talking about running some desktop application which is using the VR, like video game or maybe other game, we still can use even such tools like Appium. All the stuff is parsable on the screen on Windows, for example,
Mhm.
and you can just put some objects which can be parsed as for Appium, and you can just test it like they are appearing. You can do some interactions with them, and etc. But
So you
for
so sorry for interrupting. So you think that if we get the Apple Vision Pro in our hands, we will have. I mean, we'll try to use Appium for testing for automation on it. We have a high chance that it works.
We can try to do that.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, but we can try. But I think Apple, as I said earlier today, I think Apple has tools already for testing the ARs. I think it's XCTest also, because you can use XCTest not only for testing the mobile devices, you can use it also for desktop applications for Apple. I think, and something tells me that Apple is not fools, and they already tried to do some stuff for testing the ARs. Yeah, but talking about not only the ARs and VRs, I already tried to test some embedded systems, and they also has some tooling for testing. But if it runs on Android, you can test on Android. Sorry, on Espresso or Appium.
Okay, talking about new devices, or let's throw the ball to Vasily. So as the target for the performance testing, so we have on-prem standalone servers, then cloud servers. That's pretty obvious. Do we have something new as a target for the performance testing? Do we have something in line?
In terms of what?
So the platform we are testing, right? At the very beginning, it was standalone servers, on-prem servers. Right now, in addition, we have cloud servers, cloud environments. Maybe anything else to test?
So let's divide like the approach of the performance testing or its area into two main like regions. First of all is the server-side performance testing, where you measure the response from server to the client itself, like you send a request and you get your response and you measure the time, check the latencies and everything. You measure the server's resource consumption. And the third part is the client side, when you measure the time which the client takes to process the data to deliver it to the end user. So it's the data representation time, basically. So as of now, I can say that in terms of the VR stuff, which is happening right now, nothing really new happens here, because for the 3D stuff, we always have had those 3D benchmarks, which are basically measuring the performance of the frame rate creation. So really easily to get it done here. And in terms of the tools, yes, all the modern engines like the fifth Unreal, which came out, which is doing really, I know, realistic rendering. They have all the tools inbuilt. So basically, it's again a measure of the fit for purpose. So you select your tool for the purpose that you're looking at. You get your metrics, you run through the methodology, and you get everything executed. As well as mentioned in the chat that basically AI may help you with the data analysis. Well, yeah, but in terms of like the common tooling that we have, like the time series based databases like the InfluxDB, which is like the industry standard in terms of having it with the Grafana, and the JMeter has a plugin for it. Nothing new here. You just get the job done by selecting proper technologies and tools.
Okay, so I'm finished with my questions, and let's proceed with the questions from our audience. So first question was sent before the session, and it's primary for Konstantin, but Vasily, you are also welcome to provide input if you have experience in that area. So let me quote, as I explore native testing tools like Espresso or Xcode, I find it useful to write test integration unit in the dev repo. Additionally, I write and approve tests what were originally developed by the developers. However, this removes responsibility from developers for the quality and may increase their risk. Have you faced that kind of issue? How can we build a testing process with the developers without losing collaboration synergy?
Yeah, that's a really good question, but I had no experience with that because mostly integration tests which we wrote on the Espresso for the project were written by the QA team, and end-to-end tests were still at that point when I worked on that project were mostly on the Appium, but the integration tests were written by the QA team, and the unit tests were written by the dev team.
Okay.
I could drop an answer here too. So
yeah, sure.
I believe that the question here is mostly for the delivery part and the project organization or project processes here. Because I mean, it always depends on how the management or the product owner or the product managers how they approach the overall delivery organization. So basically, if there's a quality gate for a code which is written by the developers to have really defined coverage, which is the most common metric used like in the automatic code coverage calculation tools such as SonarQube, which is like the most popular one. I don't see a problem here. Like if the code is not covered, then it's not going. And in terms of the integration test, I believe that there's some kind of a misunderstanding here, because the unit tests, they are executed during the code compile, and the integrational tests, they're executed after the code is being deployed. Those are different stages of the delivery and the different areas of the delivery. And basically, the area of responsibilities are different. So developers are responsible for the unit testing, and you're responsible for the integrational tests. What's the problem here? Your tests are following the unit tests, which may have gone into some kind of unsupported state, of course. But the idea of having the unit tests executed before the deployment is to shift left your testing, and basically they ensure the code quality, but the not applications quality. So again, area is different, and let's not try to mix up the things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I just remembered how while Vasily was talking, I just remembered how we had on one project, we wrote the test plans for some features, and we asked developers to write the tests for some features, like not some features, but parts of code, like returning some some status code for HTTP requests and etc. The same could be done, I think, for Android and iOS in mobile testing.
It actually smells like a test-driven development,
Yeah,
which
we
was
had a
like
TDD approach.
created more around 25 years ago, and I still haven't seen any projects having that, because it really relies on the developers qualification, as well as the management will to run all the processes right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Question from Alexander. What set of skills is needed? I suppose this is for Vasily. What set of skills needed to be able to dive into performance testing? As I heard, there is a need of knowledge in data analysis, automation, DevOps, and even security testing.
That's a good question here. So first of all, EPAM has a quite nicely defined set of performance analysis discipline requirements, and they could be easily assessed through the knowledge base as well as the skill. I'm sure how it's used now because I'm a former employee, but just in general, I could say that the requirements for the entry is not that high. So basically, some really basic programming skills, and then the HTTP protocol understanding, and some basic, not the DevSecOps, but the architectural understanding of how applications are built and how elements in the architectural landscape are connected. And some basic analytic skills are required. And then as you would go through the deep diving into some specific of the application that you would be testing, of course, you will be forced to learn data analysis and maybe test automation, like for some code to be executed within your test and whatsoever. But the basic entry level is significantly lower. But again, to restate, the just for you not to make the beginner's mistake here, do not try to learn the tooling. So not to just code your request and response, get the metrics, get the test whatsoever. Start from the basics, start from understanding of how the entire performance analysis process must be built. Like starting from the proper controllable environment and controllable methodology approach, and then followed by simple scripts that could be easily written. So again, refer to the performance analysis knowledge base. The guys are really nice there, and why not to give it a shot?
Okay. Thank you, Vasily. Question to Konstantin from Victor. What about Selenide Appium for mobile testing? Selenide Appium, do you understand what it is?
Yes, it was an adapter for Selenide to work with Appium, but it was merged to the Selenide, and you can use the Selenide right now. Just Selenide, like Appium. But I haven't mentioned the Selenide Appium on purpose because, well, it's still Appium. It's not something new, not a new framework, which is well, I don't know how to say it, but
beneficial. Nothing beneficial of using Selenide.
No, not nothing beneficial, but it's a cool framework. I mean, Selenide is a cool framework, but it's still just Selenium or Appium, but with good-looking code.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay. A question back to Vasily. Question from Nadide. For the application running on SAP SAP platform, do you have any suggestion what we can check BE memory leakage? For example, is there any option to use Purify?
Unfortunately, no special tools here, so just basic monitoring, because SAP is quite closed in its architecture, so you have your nodes and whatsoever. I could only wish you luck here.
So I mean, do I understand you right that there is no, I mean, industry standard solution?
Only common tools for the server-side metric collection. Unfortunately, no special tools for SAP here.
Mm-hmm. What about Purify? Is that the good option for memory leakage?
Haven't used that.
You haven't. What would you prefer for memory leakage? What tool?
I use the regular Prometheus data collection and just build Grafana boards to have my eye on the data, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Question from Nadezhda. Any suggestion about worthy information resources to stay up to date with the mobile application industry news? So
that's really a hard question. I think it's for me.
Well, let me paraphrase it a little. So when you wake up on the morning and get some mandatory cup of coffee, what industry site or paper you open for getting news about mobile domain?
It's still Haber.
Still Haber. Well,
yes.
Actually, it's a Russian-speaking resource. Can you maybe familiar with English-speaking or any language? Chinese, maybe?
No.
Chinese is fine. Come on.
I look for conferences which are free to visit. Sometimes I like for some tools I got familiar with some tools mostly on the Russian-speaking conferences because it was some Avito Tech conference, and another one was held by Kaspersky Lab. So I have no idea if there is something cool with the topic, with mobile automation topics and on the internet with English resources.
Okay. Question again to you from Vyacheslav. What about integration of mobile automation in quality gates? Do we have showcases, aka Jenkins, Captain to AMP provider, Dina, Splunk, New Relic, and etc.?
I have to think about the answer for that question, actually.
Well, actually, if it is complicated, we can get back to it later. Let's not spend time on that and move forward. So, question from Konstantin. Everyone hates slow sites and apps. What about trend make internet fast again? Do you see on your experience, do business customers care of it? How often it must have requirement to be really fast? How often it is achieved? What are the blockers? This is a question to Vasily, obviously.
That's a quite interesting question because, I mean, first of all, we have our SPA or single page application approach, which is the approach when you enter your site and you have the code downloaded, and the code builds up the application and downloads the resources and executes a web service request. So basically, you don't have any hard navigations, only soft navigations, and those sites are of course faster because you have your microservices, you have your content distribution stuff for the ease of data download. But in terms of the performance testing itself and enhancing how sites are being displayed on your screen, there's no like easy answer here. Because in terms of the big corporations, they run their sites for quite a long time, and they have lots of legacy stuff. They do their like lesson learned in terms of the performance problems that they have with their production systems, but it's not that easy to have them split into the microservices. And talking about make internet fast again, well, I wish that everything would be faster, but in terms of the investments and whatsoever, big companies, they start ticking only after big problems with their core systems availability. And in terms of the small companies, you know, they build their systems in agile way, so no performance testing is executed. So basically, the trend of the performance testing itself, of course, is rising because the demand is rising in terms of the need of having the performance tests executed. But do we get like better systems? Actually not, because the level of the candidates available on the market and the general expertise is not that high, to tell the truth. And the willingness of the clients to spend like thousands of dollars on properly deployed systems with the landscapes, with the test data, with the proper approach, with the continuous delivery integrations, they're not that high.
Okay. So the question, this is the same, very similar question from Alexander. What, at your point, what is the need for performance testing today? Is it rising, falling, or staying at the same level?
It's rising since the number of IT systems is rising, but unfortunately the number of candidates is quite limited, because performance testing requires a lot of competency within different areas, like the test automation, like the DevSecOps things, and etc. So the demand is high, salaries are high too, but to get into like some kind of real production activities, it will take you a long time.
So, question to Konstantin, in aligned with the something that Vasily said. So, do you share the internal feeling of people? This is my opinion, of course, that internet is slightly but getting slower since last few years. Do you feel the same?
Not sure what they are talking about, but it's not the internet. It's mostly web applications and websites, which are very slow.
Absolutely correct. I mean, so when we open a browser and open a ordinary site,
you have to click over 9,000 pop-ups, accept cookies, and etc. and etc. And that's what makes internet slow. Not the internet makes
Okay.
is making itself slower.
Okay. Okay. So guys, we ran out of the questions and almost ran out of time. So I suppose.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to answer a question for Alexander, who asked about the quality gates. Oh, sorry, Vyacheslav. Sorry. Yeah, if the question about the integration and tooling, everything is similar as you do with the web UI testing and backend testing. All the stuff would work for mobile testing. If the question is about that, because if I understand the question correctly.
Okay. Thank you, Konstantin. So since we are run out of questions and run out of time, so we are done for today. Let me thank you guys for coming and being as expert. Let me express my wish that to see you next time in the audience, or maybe as an expert again. Guys on the call, thank you for coming. I hope that this meeting was useful, and again, hope to see you next time on our next meetings, meetups, and next events. Thank you, everybody, and see you next time.
See you.
See you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.